What's up, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's TV review of Snowpiercer Season 1, Episode 8, These Are His Revolutions. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next, and comment below on any video that you watch, including this one. So that was a lot. That was a very violent episode. This is basically where the tail section and third class and everything starts to come to a head because, one, we're getting close to the end of the season. We have to have some kind of, big bang to finish the season, and we have to have the moving parts start finally kind of collide with one another, and that's exactly what's happening in this episode. And it was a pretty meaty episode. There was a lot of stuff going on. It was pretty crazy. It's one of the most action-packed episodes, and brings back a couple of characters that haven't been seen since like episode 2, so for like 4 or 5 weeks now. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy to watch. But the biggest thing out of this is the Folger family, the one that's been kind of the lead first class group. They have finally learned that Wilford is dead, according to this episode at least, that Wilford is dead, that Jennifer Connelly's Melanie character has been kind of deceiving everyone. Ruth, who is the, second in command, almost like the secretary for, the Melanie character, she finally comes to the revelation of what's happening, and she finally comes to, it breaks her heart because her and Melanie have kind of created this amazing, archetype or structure in how this Snowpiercer runs. They've been doing it for 7 years. And when she and Commander Gray kind of figure out, or Captain Gray, sorry, when they kind of figure out what's happening, when first class figures out what's going on, Melanie is arrested and she's going to be executed for her crimes, which are deceiving the class, deceiving the group. Everything is just coming to a head, and it's looking like the Jennifer Connelly's Melanie character is going to die. And what is impassioned about this segment, this sequence, is watching Ruth talk to Melanie, the one she's always, relied on. She's always looked up to. She's always come to bat for when everything goes wrong, when there's an issue, and so on and so forth. And it's really, really sad to see. I think out of all the episodes that we've watched in this series so far, I think this has been the most fleshed out role for somebody like Alison Wright, who plays Ruth, who's always been in the background. She's always tried to keep everything in check. And, after last week's episode and seeing how she's had to deal with the fact that not everybody is going to, go along with Melanie's plan anymore. I mean, 7 years is a long time to never see Mr. Wilford or never see anybody outside of Melanie. And so we've seen the inklings of LJ and her family kind of slowly starting to turn the tide of what this train is representing. And when you see, like I said, Ruth and Melanie talk, you can just see the hurt, you can see the hate, you can see the just, I'm done with it. You're done. There's nothing left for you. And then, of course, we see Melanie, who is now inside the same room as Josie was the last episode, and see that she was trying to make it so that everyone could have the train successfully, have the be on the train. Really kind of makes you wonder about Melanie's character in general, whether she's lying to make people feel bad for her, whether Mr. Wilford was really as bad as she was saying, because she says he's basically like a high roller / misogynistic guy who was just going to sleep with a bunch of women, that type of thing. And she left him on the side of the tracks. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know. Like I said, there's not really much kind of push forward in that portion, which I think is something at the end of the season is going to give us more information about who Mr. Wilford is, and what she say is true. We're going to see if she lasts next episode. We're going to see if they finally kill her next episode. Is she going to last the end of the season? I don't know. But yeah, it was a pretty crazy segment to watch, and really kind of sad to see Ruth and what she's having to deal with. And the first class are a bunch of terrible human beings. Just to watch LJ and her excitement over the bloodletting and the fascination that she has with all the chaos and stuff like that, it's really kind of disturbing to watch. I think what she's doing, I think what Annalise and Basso is doing in this series is pretty fantastic. I think she's actually one of the best characters in the series, because of how menacing she really is. She can turn the tide of anyone in this series, and she does such a nice job in just the small amount of screen time that she has in this episode. So now, one of the characters I never really talk about is Commander Gray, and he's played by Timothy V. Murphy. He's mostly been like that in the background, kind of like Ruth. He's like the captain of the guard, captain of the security force. And he really gets to shine in this episode because he has to take on the tail section while trying to deal with the first class and trying to like coincide with them, trying to come to the revelation that Mr. Wilford is dead, that Melanie has been playing them all along. And to watch him kind of go from scene to scene to scene, his violence and how he has to react to everything, to just everything that he has dealt with in the series, you see him starting to become more of a important character that may not last the entire season. I mean, this entire first season. But I've really liked what Timothy has done here in this, especially in this episode, because when he takes on the tail section, the bloodletting, he's almost like Jason Isaacs in The Patriot, where he is very, very menacing, but he is a guy who something's going to happen to him where he either turns against the first class or he is going to die, and I don't know what's going to happen to him, but I really like what he's doing here. I'm starting to really enjoy the Commander Gray character because he does a lot of really nice stuff. He's menacing, he's evil, but he has a willingness to side with somebody who is going to make everything more potent. Maybe they want him to be, a bigger figure in first class of protecting them and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens with this character, but I want to give him a shout out because he's really well focused in this episode. This episode has a lot of great focused characters that we haven't seen for a long time, or not seen a lot of, and they're finally getting their moments to shine. And that was especially in this episode with Commander Gray. So, and another small segment was dealing with Miles and Bennett and Javier up on the train, where Melanie's kind of explained to Miles about the whole system of the train. We learned a little bit about Melanie's daughter, which is really kind of sad and depressing. But I like that Miles is he's undercover for the tail section, so he's like flicking the lights off and on. He brings LJ to first class where they learn that Melanie is Mr. Wilford. And I just like that segment because once Javier is kicked out of the train, the engine train, and locked, it's now Bennett and Miles controlling the train. So we're going to see what happens between this next couple episodes to the season finale to kind of figure out how their two are going to play off each other. Is Bennett going to last? Is Miles going to last? There's a lot of people who may not make it out of this season. I'm going to be honest with you. Next season, whenever that comes, and I think they've actually renewed for a second season. It's going to be interesting to see like how these character dynamics change as the season moves along to the season finale, to the eventual second season. It's gonna be really interesting to see, but I like the small bits of moments with Bennett and of course Miles. I like how everything interacts. I like how Javier's like, oh, we're listening to the kid now. It's kind of fun to watch, and it's fun to see once everybody figures out that Melanie is Mr. Wilford, how things start falling apart. And it's a really kind of chaotic moment. This whole episode should just be called Chaos the episode, because there's a lot of chaos going on. So, but of course this leads into the biggest part of this whole entire episode, what the series is kind of leaning closely towards, which is the revolution. Now, it's been talked about, something happened in like the second episode that put Stephen Ogg and the couple guys in the drawers. We see the Happy Anderson's character, the doctor, the medic, or whatever you want to call him. He's finally turned towards the tail and third section side. They're letting the guys out of the drawers. And what is happening basically is everybody who was in third, some of the people, including Bess, who is going to help the tail class basically create the revolution, everything comes to a head. They basically use the third class and they attack all the security officers and security guards. Roach and John, who are like the main security guards, are basically relented. John runs away to do whatever he's going to do because he's a coward. Roach basically moves to the side, and it leads into an insane battle sequence, an insane action sequence that takes place in the nightclub, takes place in the underground engine area, and it's just a straight up violent warfare segment that is basically as bloodletting as it can get. It's super violent. There's a segment in here that is reminiscent of Seven with the Gwyneth Paltrow head thing. There's a segment in here that's very reminiscent of The Matrix. There's segments in here that are very reminiscent of The Patriot, which is what I was getting like very reminiscent thoughts of, because there's a point where Commander Gray and Andrew Layton are fighting right near each other. It's almost like Commander Gray's Jason Isaacs character and Andrew Layton's the Mel Gibson, character from The Patriot. And yeah, it's incredibly violent. I mean, there are heads getting chopped off, there are arms getting cut off, there's super insane amount of blood going everywhere. I'm still amazed that show like cable networks like TNT are letting shows like this on, because this is like HBO level of violence. It's not like realistic violence, because the blood is a little CGI and it looks a little goofy when they do. I think that's to tone down like how graphic it is. But there's a guard, Commander Gray, one of his units is knocked out, and then they find his head in a box. And I'm like, oh, that's what would happen if, that's what happens when Brad Pitt sees Gwyneth Paltrow's head. But we actually see the head in the box and we see the head cut off. And I'm like, wow, they actually went there. I mean, we've seen it before in this series where like it gets extremely violent. Look at last week's with Josie, hand getting cut off and stuff like that. But yeah, it's some of the stuff going on in this episode is insane and violent and graphic. And to watch Andrew Layton kind of turn into like that Braveheart Patriot style character, to see that they kind of do lose the battle because a lot of people in the tail class do die. There's a lot of, the one thing that's really nice to see, and you don't get to see this a lot, is the aftermath of a battle, and you see all the people on the battlefield hurt and screaming and in agony, and you see that, you see Andrew Layton's mind, his mentality and his mindset is just like, he doesn't know really how to go from here. And when there's tear gas and stuff like that that's thrown at them by the Commander Gray's guards, and it's just a really kind of chaotic sequence. I really like the fact of what Andrew Layton, the Daveed Diggs character, is doing here. I like how he works. I like how he motivates the tail section, how he's that leader. The use of the rah-rah, you see it every movie where they pump everyone up. That's a little kind of cliche, but you know what? I'm so invested in the series so much that I just kind of forgive that. I really enjoy that kind of stuff. I find it kind of fun and entertaining because it is what it is. This is Snowpiercer. People are fighting on a train, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, it leads into a lot of very, very violent stuff, but it's leading to the eventual conclusion to, will these tail section people live this revolution, or will it go back to status quo, or will the tail section die? I mean, who knows? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with the first class and what's going to happen with the third class, the second class. We don't ever really see much of the second class, which is kind of fascinating, because there's always the first class, the eat the rich type stuff, and third class, tail class. Well, what's going on with second class? Are they just sitting there staring at their watches, wondering when the revolution is going to officially end? I mean, who knows? But that's interesting. It's interesting to see Bess finally take a true side with Andrew Layton, to see her and Genju's relationship strain, because Genju is very committed to the Melanie, Mr. Wilford stuff. So we'll see how that ends, whether Bess died. I mean, I don't know. Who knows who's going to die at the end of the series, or at least the end of the season. And we get to the very end, and we see Andrew Layton trying to go through everything. And they open up the last drawer, which is what Stephen Ogg, who was the main guy that was kind of leading the revolution in that second episode, he gets put in the drawer. He's not in the drawer, and it leads into, we see him on first class, and this is probably the biggest problem with the episode that I have, because all of a sudden we're doing the Agent Smith Cypher segment with Joe Pantoliano and Hugo Weaving, and we see Stephen Ogg's character basically eating a piece of cake. We see everyone from first class listening to him. We see Commander Gray. We see the Folgers and all that. And basically, Stephen Ogg's character is going to give them information to capture Andrew Layton. I wouldn't have much of a problem with this segment if it weren't for literally being the Matrix. The fact that Stephen Ogg, who has disappeared, he wasn't in the last 6 episodes or whatever, however long he's been gone. But he comes back. He's like, oh, I'm tired of what Andrew Layton does. I think he's too much of an optimistic. He's too much. He's going to do whatever he needs to do, and I'm not going to give him away. I'm like, you just kind of ruin the character. You're making us feel no sympathy for the character. I really hope he doesn't make it to the end of the season, because he's just now a worthless character. He's going to give all his humanity away for pieces of cake, for the idea of living in first class or whatever he wants. And it feels like a cop out. It feels like they were trying to figure out something to do with this character who has been around for quite a while as an actor. He worked on The Walking Dead, and of course he worked on Grand Theft Auto 5. And I feel like it's a misrepresentation of his character. You could do something different. You could, I don't know. Maybe he's playing the first class side. Maybe he really is going to be part of the revolution with the tail section. But it just feels like he's giving information away. It's going to ruin kind of the last 2 episodes of the series or the season. I don't know, but yeah, it was a little bit of shame. It was a little bit of a downer. It took it actually down a point for my rating of just how good the episode really was. I think last week's episode was the best episode so far of the season, or one of them. But this episode, just because of that segment, was probably, I'd give it like 7.5 out of 10 just for that reason. Maybe an 8 out of 10. I don't know. 7.5 is kind of a little down on my level, but 8 out of 10, I guess, would be my rating of it, is just because of that segment. But so yeah, that's it. That is my take on Snowpiercer season 1, episode 8. These are his revolutions. Still a good episode for what it's worth. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the episode. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What was your favorite part about it? All that good stuff. As always, hit that subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you dislike it, hey, it is what it is. But also hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace out.
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for checking out Movie Emporium. I really appreciate it. If you want to, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button and the bell at the top. Find out what's coming next for Movie Emporium. Also, check out these 2 videos. They're amazing. I think they're awesome. I think you'll enjoy them too. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.